Hey, this is a book review of Building Wealth One House at a Time by John Schaub. It's an awesome book, whether you're a brand new real estate investor or more experienced. And I'm going to go and give you some of my favorite big ideas from the book. And we're getting started right now. Hey, welcome to Coach Carson TV. My name is Chad Carson. You can also call me Coach. And this is a channel all about investing in real estate so you can achieve financial independence and do more of what matters. If you're new here, be sure to hit that subscribe button and the little bell so you don't miss anything. So as I like to do a lot on this channel, I'm gonna go behind the camera, pull out the clipboard here and do a little drawing to share those ideas from the book. Let's get started. The original edition of Building Wealth One House at a Time, I believe was published back in the early 90s, mid 90s by John Schaub. And I've got an older copy. There's actually a newer edition out. If you want to check that out, I definitely recommend that one as well. But I've got my old copy. I thought it was pretty cool. I got it signed by John. And, I've got it dog-eared, lots of notes, read the thing multiple times. And so I'm going to use those ideas that I've pulled out from the book to share with you now. So the first idea I want to share with you actually comes from the title of the book, and is buy just one house at a time, become wealthy. One of the things I appreciate about John's philosophy of real estate is its simplicity. And simplicity is not a bad word. A lot of the times you hear podcasts and you hear stories of people doing really well in real estate, and they've bought so many properties and they're doing all sorts of fancy techniques and strategies. And it sounds really impressive in a book or a podcast, but sometimes it takes some wisdom, somebody who's been in the business for a while, to remind you that, sometimes just executing a very simple plan and holding on and just doing the small things really well can build a lot of wealth. And John's actually said that some of the best deals he's done have been the ones that were not like a groundbreaking success in the first place. Like his very first deal, he paid the retail price for it. He put 20% down, but the rent was able to pay the mortgage and all his expenses. And because of that, he was able to hold on to this property. And a property he bought for like $50,000 way back in the day is worth $300,000 or $400,000 now. And he's collected rent the entire time before that. He doesn't have a mortgage on it anymore. And he's made lots and lots of money on that property. But if somebody with a PhD in real estate or finance would have analyzed that deal, they might have said, that's not a great deal. But he's built wealth. It's created freedom for him by just doing a simple little thing of buying one house at a time. And his recommendation is to take 4 basic steps. If you're just getting started, especially, just buy one property. Now, don't make a big mistake, avoid some of the big mistakes, but it doesn't have to be a home run right off the bat, but buy a solid property in a solid location. We'll talk a little bit more about what that means. Get it rented. Make sure you can cover all your expenses. That's a big criteria. But then pause and think about it and listen. Don't try to go rushing so fast on the next deal that you don't learn some of the lessons from your first deal. And then you repeat. And so this formula of buying a property, renting it, learning, hopefully each deal you do, you get better and better and better. And then you can get to your ultimate goal, which is living off of the properties. So let's go to idea number 2, which is something else I got from John about what is this end game of wealth building with real estate so you can achieve financial independence, so you can retire early perhaps. That's my words that I'm putting into there. Okay, the second idea builds on that first idea of a very simple plan. You buy one house at a time and you keep growing that wealth. And let's say at some point though, you want to live off of it. You want to be able to retire off your income. You want to be able to leave a job or maybe work part-time in a job, do what matters, do other things that matter in your life and use the money to do that. Well, what John recommends, and this was a big idea for me early on in my career, was you work it backwards and you build up to what's called a free and clear plan. And free and clear just means that at some point, your goal is to have a certain number of houses or properties and to own them free and clear of their debt. You pay off the debt because when you pay off the debt, you reduce your risk, you increase the cash flow that you used to be paying to the bank, and you can use that income as a very stable, steady kind of foundation or base that you can retire off of. And so John's recommendation is to start with a goal, like work it backwards and say, how much money would you need in retirement? And you're just have to estimate this. It's gonna be a little hard to figure out way in the future, but use your current budget, go above that and kind of be conservative, build a cushion there. But let's just say that was $7,000 per month. And let's say you could find some houses that rented for $1,200 per month. And after paying your expenses of $500 per month for taxes, insurance, maintenance, things like that, vacancy, and you had $700 per month left over. So $7,000 per month is your goal. $700 per month is left over and you have no mortgage payment. So that money all goes to you. How many houses would you need? I use simple math for this example. You'd need 10 houses to get $7,000 per month. So really simple little goal. And you say, okay, well, I need 10 houses. That's what I figured out here approximately. So now your goal is you go buy those houses, just like we talked about, one house at a time. If it takes it one a year, fine. If that's how long it takes you to save up the money, if you can do it more faster, that's okay too. But you buy those properties and then you work towards getting those properties free and clear. Because once you pay the debt off, you'll have that income coming in very conservatively and you have a nice base. Now, how do you get those properties free and clear? A few different ways. We can go into more depth on that. Maybe I'll do some more videos on how to do that. But the first way is to use your excess cash flow. So hopefully you're buying properties that have some extra income. So maybe each one of these, after when you do have a mortgage on it, makes a couple $100 per month. And you could do something called a rental debt snowball. Debt snowball. So instead of using your income to pay down each one of your debts separately, my recommendation is to take that income, add it all up together and any other money you can save and try to pay off one property at a time. So instead of taking 30 years on a 30-year mortgage, maybe you pay it off in 4 or 5 years. And so you get one house taken care of, you pay off that debt. Now you freed up the cash flow from that property and you pay off the second one, and it starts snowballing where it goes faster and faster and faster until all of your properties are paid off. And so that's called a debt snowball. That's one way to do it. Another way to do it, and one that we actually did early on in our career, is to buy more properties than you need, sell some of them and use that the profits from those sales to pay off the other property. So I call this a buy 3, sell 2, keep 1 type deal. So you buy 3 properties, you sell 2 of them, hopefully you make a profit on those and then use the net income to pay off the debt on the third. And if you want 10 properties, you just have to multiply that number and get a little bit bigger. So more to talk about there, but that's the general plan. And then the third way to think about it is over time, you're going to pay your loans down. You're going to amortize them. And so let's just use a simple example. Let's say you had 2 houses and each property had a $40,000 debt, but they were worth they were each worth $100,000. So you had a value of $100,000. Well, the problem is for you is from cash flow standpoint, the payment is still really big, as if you had like an $80,000 mortgage, because you're well into the amortization of your loan. So what John says is what you might want to do is refinance one of those properties. So you pay off the $80,000 loan and borrow $80,000 on that one property. And then you use the excess funds, the $40,000 on that, to pay off the loan on this other property. So you have one property free and clear, one property with an $80,000 loan. And what you'll probably find is you'll actually increase your cash flow in that situation. You have no debt on one, which is a lot safer situation, and you have $80,000 on the other, but you make sure that your tenants can afford to pay that, the net rent can afford to pay that property as well. So that's kind of a rebalancing of your portfolio, not necessarily getting all of them free and clear, but getting some of them free and clear. So some combination of those 3 is a way to move towards your free and clear plan. The third idea from the book that I liked was when John explained why houses make the best investments. Now, this might be a controversial subject in real estate circles, real estate investing circles. There's always a debate, are houses better? Are multi-units better? Are large mobile home parks better? There's all sorts of different niches within the real estate investing world, and they all have pluses and minuses. But John makes an argument for why houses are really great investments over the long run. He's owned all of those. He's owned a hotel, apartment buildings, land, and he comes back to the houses. And he says they're great because, number one, they're a hybrid investment. So let me explain that. They produce rent. So just like any other investment you think about as a rental property, you can rent the property out. But the value of a house, unlike a multi-unit property or commercial properties, doesn't have to do with the rent. So you could have a vacant house sitting there, and as long as it's in a good neighborhood with other people who want to live there, the property would actually go up in value and would maintain its value either way. And so it gets the benefit of the investment kind of income world with also the benefit of the residential world where houses go up in value because people want to live there. So that's a really nice hybrid value of a rental property. It's also a very safe investment. If you think about safety in terms of what happens in all sorts of different markets, ups and downs and recessions and depressions, people need a place to live. It's one of the last things they would give up. And they'll give up luxury items, they'll give up beach houses, they'll give up all sorts of things before they give up their home. And so that safety is in the fact that it's a necessity. It's one of the things people have to have and it produces income. And especially when you buy in the kind of median to lower price properties that are what a lot of people can afford, it becomes even more safe. John also points out that the houses are one of the easiest investments. It's intuitive for us, and there are other reasons that it's just an easy approach for whether you're a beginner or more experienced investor to get your head around. Number one, the tenants are really a lot easier to work with typically. There's always some challenges here and there, and you got to get good at managing properties or hiring a manager. But if you have a house that's in a good location, that people want to live in, they put a bunch of their stuff in there. Unlike a lot of apartments, people tend to stay in houses longer. And if somebody stays in a house 5 or 10 years, it's good for the tenant. They get a place to live for a long time. You as a owner of that property, you get a benefit as well, because you can offer to do some upgrades here and there, but they're going to not need the house painted every couple of years, and they're not going to need brand new carpet every 4 or 5 years just because they're living there. They're comfortable there. But if it turns over all the time, then it costs you a lot more. So easy tenants who tend to stay longer. It's easier to buy houses. There's always a large supply of them. And there's a lot of competition from buyers and other people, but there's a huge supply of houses, and you're typically dealing with people who've sold a property once or twice. Unlike big commercial buildings or something, you're dealing with other investors. So sometimes you can negotiate a good deal from somebody who just needs to sell for a life situation, not necessarily trying to get top dollar for their property. And then finally, they're easier to sell. So multi-unit properties and all those, you can sell those to other investors as well. But when you sell a house, back to that hybrid investment, they're going to move into that house because they love it. They love the neighborhood, the street, and they'll pay you the full price for it in a good market, and they'll get a loan and pay you off. So if you need to sell one piece of your portfolio, you can sell one house and not have to sell the rest of them, and you can get the benefit of getting that cash out of that house and kind of shuffling your portfolio around because it's more liquid than some of the other investments. So all of those are reasons why John thinks houses are the best investment. I have a lot of houses myself. I also have some multi-unit properties, but I tend to agree with John over the long run. This is a really compelling reason to own houses as investments. So I made the case in the last idea from John that houses are a great investment, but he also qualifies that not every house is the best investment. You've got to buy the right house. You got to have some criteria. And I've learned this lesson the hard way because I didn't listen to John's advice all the time. And I just thought, hey, the numbers are great on this property. Let me buy it. And what John says is you want to work it backwards and buy a house that your tenants, your ideal tenants, would want. Because not all tenants are the same either. The ideal tenants pay their rent on time. They're good stewards of the property. They take care of it. They stay a long time. And any landlord would want to have tenants like that. And so you've got to buy properties and locations that are going to attract those tenants. You can look in the book. He's got a list of a lot of criteria he would use, but it's things like buying in a safe neighborhood, buying a property that has a lot of storage so people can put all their junk in there, their stuff. People like their junk. And they'll stay longer when their stuff's in there. And so just look at that criteria in the book. I found it very helpful because in the distinction for me that really kind of came out of that is that every time I'm buying a property, you've got to think about the numbers, but you also got to think about the kind of I call it the qualitative. So the quality of the property. See, I'd spell that right. Qualitative, and then the numbers or the quantitative part of it. So you want to get good numbers, you want to get good returns, you want to buy it below the value, but you also want to have this list of things like John's talking about that make it a desirable place to live for your tenant. And they do affect one another, the numbers and the qualitative, but some investors just look at the numbers. And what people like Warren Buffett say when they're buying stocks is that he would rather buy a high quality business and get it at a slight discount than get a bad quality business at a huge discount. And he used to, both John and Warren Buffett and me as well, early in our careers, we would just go by the numbers, even if it was a bad quality property, because the numbers are really low. But both of them found out, and I'm learning myself, is that over the long run, you actually make more money by getting a kind of a balance of the numbers and the qualitative. So that might mean you don't buy the cheapest property in town. Maybe you get a slight discount, but over time it goes up in value and your tenants stay longer, and that means that you're going to make more money and also provide a better place for someone to live. So buy the right house is idea number 4. The final idea I want to share with you from this awesome book is actually something that John wrote when he signed the book for me. Build wealth, enjoy it, share it. So sort of a slogan or a motto that John's used. And the idea that I really resonated with was that, you know what, we're here to build wealth. You're here to read this book to learn how to build wealth. And getting your money taken care of is important. A lot of us are stressed about money. A lot of us are working a job we don't like. We're doing things we don't want to because we're doing it for money. And so by getting financial independence and focusing on that, that's a really worthwhile endeavor. But we all also run the risk, if you get good at making money, of making that too much of a focus. If you make that too much of a focus, you give money too much importance, you really miss out on what life's all about, why you did it in the first place. Enjoying it, enjoying your wealth, enjoying your family, your friends, enjoying the hobbies, the travel, the things you want to do that bring pleasure to life. And I don't know about you, but I found that money is definitely part of the equation of enjoying life, but there's a lot of things that don't cost that much money or just cost a limited amount of money. But what I need more than money is the time and the flexibility. Time and flexibility. So I've taken some trips, for example, with my wife before we had kids. We went on long trips backpacking around South America, and we took a trip with our family in 2017 with our two kids to Ecuador and lived there for 17 months. And yes, money was part of the equation, but having the time and flexibility to leave and building wealth in a way that allows you to have that time and flexibility really allowed us to enjoy it. And then finally, sharing it. John has been very involved in Habitat for Humanity and taking some of his knowledge and passion for real estate and giving back and helping people who need housing, and to do it in a way that empowers them and allows them to own homes. So Habitat for Humanity is a great organization, but just the idea of giving back and sharing it has been really inspiring to me, both with John and other friends I have, like Physician on Fire and Tanya at Our Next Life. A lot of people who have achieved financial independence realize that, hey, giving it back and sharing and helping other people who might not have a leg up, might not have the benefits we had when we first started, or even if they didn't, to share that wealth with them. And so that's been a big part of my motto at Coach Carson, is do what matters. Is that we're building wealth, we want to enjoy it, but we also want to give back and make an impact on the world. And I know so many of you have these dreams of making impacts, whether it's your family, whether it's a nonprofit, whether it's your church, whatever the case might be. You're kind of stuck working a job when your soul's calling for you to do something else, to make a contribution and make a difference. And so I think that's really cool, and a big part of Coach Carson. This is an education business. I have paid classes that people take with me, have a book that I wrote, but 50% of the profits that we make in Coach Carson are now going to a charitable trust that we want to use to donate to other people and to kind of keep that thing going full circle. So you have to figure out for yourself what that means, but I hope that inspires you as well. Both the whole book, Building Wealth One House at a Time, the ideas on how to buy a property, how to rent it, how to get it paid off, how to live off that income, and then how to kind of bring it full circle and go back to the purpose of why you invested in the first place, how you want to make an impact on others. And let me know in the comments below what you think about the book. Have you read it? Is it something you want to read? What do you think about these ideas? And if you like this channel, be sure to hit subscribe and the little bell so you don't miss any of the future videos that I have coming. I have videos about real estate investing, financial independence, and doing more of what matters. So I look forward to seeing you very soon.